Welcome back to the podcast Indestructible Soul, mental wellness for African American men and boys. And today we're going to sort of continue our series on trauma. And I actually have to, I would be remiss if I didn't take a sort of a detour and talk about what's going on in this country yet again. Now, this platform is for African American men and boys. And so I've been talking about trauma, and yet here we are again being traumatized. Now, you might wonder what I'm talking about. So I'm going to connect this show back to trauma. However, the main topic of today is Black trauma. My skin is my sin. Now, let me just give this disclaimer real quick. I don't care how you feel about it. I don't care what you think about it, but I'm going to talk about some things that, you know, you may not want to talk about, but I really don't care too much. Now, one of the things that we all know about is yet again in Kenosha, Kenosha, Minnesota, yet another black male, shot in the back 7 times by police officers. And then following that, we have a vigilante, 17-year-old, who killed 2 people, killed 2 protesters, and believe it or not, now has people now have created a GoFundMe for his legal defense. So today, not only am I going to talk about trauma, I'm going to talk about racism. I'm going to talk about the psyche of racism and the sad fact that, I've stayed away from these kind of topics thus far, but not only are our local governments, in terms of the police departments and all of those things, are perpetuating this, it's coming from the very top. And the sad part about it is, and I'll use this term, good white folks don't even realize that they're being set up. That not only are they being set up, but they're a part of the plot. And, and a lot of people say, well, I'm not racist. Well, after today's topic and after today's discussion, we'll figure that out. So I'm really, I don't know what to say. Is because I've been seeing this kind of stuff my entire life, literally my entire life, whether it's police brutality or racism in general. And so let me go ahead and kind of frame where I'm going with this today. So one of the things that we never talk about is racial trauma. We never talk about how black people, but particularly black men, are affected in terms of trauma when it comes to racism, systematic racism, and how society sees us. And this country, literally, this country, since its inception, have spent a lot of time demonizing black men, demonizing us, making us to appear to be enemy number one and the biggest threat in this country. Yet, very seldomly do you see a black system systematically destroying a race. But this country has spent literally its entire existence demonizing black men and black people in general. And so one of the things that I'm going to get to and talk about how not only does that affect trauma, I'm going to talk about how it's affected me. And here's what I want. I will challenge any person who thinks differently and who looks different than I do to come on this show, to come sit with me and let's have a conversation. I will challenge any Trump supporter to come on this show and let's talk about it. And the sad part about it is, if you looked at this president and you look at his supporters, they cannot tell you one intelligible reason why they support this dude. And here's the reason why, and this is what I said before when I in my intro, is that they don't even know that they're being set up. What do I mean by that? Here's one thing. I think our president is just ignorant. But here's one thing he was a genius about. He tapped into, when you talk about his base and you talk about his supporters, he tapped into the psyche of white supremacy. He tapped into the psyche of that part of a certain group of white people that they cannot get away from it, and he knew it. And what I mean by that is he knew exactly who he was talking to, and the problem is now, from the top on down, from the local governments to the police department, he has given the green light to destroy not only this country, to destroy minorities, to destroy black men, and now we are being literally slaughtered in the streets without impunity. And frankly, I'm irritated, I'm saddened, I'm tired of it. But let's talk about it. So let's talk about it. So one of the things I always like to do is give background, right? So some people might say, well, well, let me say this before I get started. If I would love to see, if you got some white friends, I would love for them to sit down and listen. The people who, and I'm not talking to the white supremacists who really, there's no change in their mind. But what I really want people who don't understand racism, who don't understand white privilege, who don't understand these things, I really want you guys to sit down and I welcome you to sit and listen. So, because maybe, hopefully, I can teach you a little bit of something. And yes, will I connect it back to trauma? Sure, I'm gonna connect it back to trauma. But the fact of the matter is, my skin is my sin. But let me tell you a little bit about my heritage real quick, just real quick. Now, here's the thing. I was not raised in the South. I was born and raised in San Bernardino. And one of the things I remember growing up on the west side of San Bernardino, I was born in 72. But mind you, in 72, I graduated from Cajon High School. But mind you, in 72, I believe my uncle was going to Cajon or trying to go to Cajon. Here's what people don't even realize. Yes, I graduated from Cajon, but I am told of stories that literally, if you know the west side of San Bernardino, you got Cajon Boulevard, you got California Street, and there's a train track. So you always hear people talk about the other side of the train track. So for black folks going to Cajon High School, understand this. There's literally the train track that separated the west side of San Bernardino or the southwest side of San Bernardino with the north side going into Cajon. One of the things that my grandmother always wanted us to know is don't take going to Cajon High School for granted, because there was a time that we could not go to that school. We could not cross the side of town. Understand that. Now, one of the things that my grandmother used to tell us, is that they had to face the Klan, literally the Klan in San Bernardino, California. They had to face the Klan in order to have kids, my uncle and all of them, bus to Cahoon High School. Literally had to face the Klan to be able to go to Cahoon. Now that's something that you often see in Alabama and Tennessee and things like that, but we never really hear about it and what that was like here in San Bernardino. So by the time I went there, here's the problem, which is I went there from 86 to 90. The legacy had not left. Sure, we could play football together. Sure, we can sit and, be cool. But the legacy of that side of town and the legacy of black people going to Cahoon High School had not left. So, and this is just, I'm trying to give you a mindset and giving you just a piece of where I'm coming from, because I'm really upset right now. So, as my grandmother and the community and my mom and all of them fought to be able to go to Cahoon, and one of the stories that she often told us about, while my mother was pregnant, that my grandmother's car was firebombed by the Ku Klux Klan. And the only way that my mother was basically had to jump out the window, umpteen months pregnant, to avoid the firebomb. This is in the 70s. So now let's fast forward just a little bit more. Okay. So now let's fast forward. So when we start talking about police brutality, now I'm not even getting to, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up a little bit. So here we are on the west side of San Bernardino, and I'm getting older. My mother used to always tell me, be careful, be careful. Remember, kids don't see color. Kids don't see color. But she used to always have to tell me, be careful, and she started to teach me about racism. Here's a question. In white families, do your parents have to have a conversation with you about racism? Now, I remember as a kid going to different places outside of San Bernardino, not very far. I'm talking Redlands. I'm talking Yucaipa. I'm talking some places in San Bernardino and some places in Fontana. Most of the time, it was always to go out and play football. And every single time, what do you think happened? We was called niggas. ER. But okay. Now, imagine as a little kid, you're starting to realize outside of your neighborhood or in different arenas, you are not safe. You are not safe. Not because I've done anything wrong, but because my skin is my sin. Now, follow me on this. Now, so as we get older and as we begin to grow up, we start to see this thing for ourselves. The problem is that there's other people who don't experience it, so they believe it does not exist. Black people are always using the race card. Now, here's the thing. Because most white folks, they have not had to be taught about racism. So this is no different than a gazelle or any other animal on the face of the earth that has to be taught, where's the danger? Where's the danger? So when I go into a room or when I meet people, it has been ingrained in me, and it's a part of my DNA, it's in a part of my psyche to understand where the danger is. And I'm not talking about bullets and guns. I'm talking about walking into a room, walking into a school, walking into a police department, and understanding that I'm fighting a system or I'm fighting a demon that you can't see, but you can feel. And eventually they show it to you. Because our parents had to teach us and warn us against racism. I wasn't around when Dr. King was alive. I wasn't around when Malcolm X was alive. And so the thing is, we had to be taught this stuff because it didn't go away. It just got more clever. It just got more clever. So when we start to talk about the the psyche of racism, what most people don't understand, and I mean most people outside of being black, what they don't understand, because here's the thing: you cannot tell me that something don't exist that you don't experience. I can give you countless times that I have been treated a certain way, I have been judged a certain way, I have been denied certain things simply because the color of my skin. But now here's the thing. Things have gotten so bad and they've been so bad that I can be shot in the back. I can be literally murdered in the streets and people will justify it. Because in this society, it has been so ingrained in the psyche of America, in the racist psyche of America, that black people cannot be victims. Or some kind of way, we deserve what we've gotten. We've deserved to be shot in the back. We deserve to be suffocated and strangled in the middle of the street. We deserve what we're supposed to get. It has gotten so bad that a person with an assault rifle, with a loaded assault rifle, is less threatening than a black man that is unarmed. Because we have been demonized for centuries. We have been denied rights and we have been demonized for centuries. So therefore, I can see a person of fair skin, a white person who has a loaded gun, ready to shoot. And that's not a threat, but me with my fist raised and yelling for peace and yelling for equal rights is the threat. That's the psyche of America. So let me explain something to you. And I'm going to get to the facts. I know I digress a little bit. So back to my heritage, back to why I think the way I think. Because it's what I've experienced. Let's get to police brutality. Have I ever been beat up by the police? No. Have I been pulled over because my skin is my sin? 1,000%. Let me tell you a quick story, and I'm gonna get to the rest of it. But I'm upset right now because here's the thing: this white kid, vigilante, and I'm gonna get to it, went across state and killed 2 people, and they're justifying it to where they have a GoFundMe. But if I stand my ground and defend myself and try to maintain my dignity, I get shot down and it's my fault. True story. Let me tell you this story real quick. I don't care if you like it. I don't care if I'm upset. So in 1999, my family, when I mean my family, my entire family, my wife, my sister, the kids, we go to this. We go 4th of July. We go to the Stampede Stadium. It was Stampede back then, I think. For the 4th of July to watch the game and see the fireworks after the show. So my sister's friend, my sister Val, and my sister friend, like, I was the victim of the very first Karen. I don't care what y'all say, right? So we got the new Karen. I was one of the victims of the very first Karen. So what happens is, at the Stampede Stadium, the 66er Stadium, they have a grass area, and then they have, the general seating and all that stuff. So my sister and Lynn go sit in some empty seats, and the stadium's not crowded or whatever. So Karen tells my sister and Lynn they shouldn't be sitting there for whatever reason. Now, mind you, here's the caveat. I was not there when that happened. I was off playing with the kids in the grass area, had zero to do with the altercation. So next thing you know, Karen and my sister and Lynn running off at the mouth, they arguing or whatnot. So at some point, security gets involved. One of the things, if you know San Bernardino and you know the stadium, the security guards are all off-duty officers. Off-duty officers. So I look up and I see the commotion and I see all the security surrounding my sister and Lynn. Okay, so I go over there like, hey, what's going on, whatever, whatever. So now they trying to sort out Karen's complaint. And I'm literally standing there and they're saying that, Lynn was getting wild and my sister was getting wild. And I'm like, nah, that's not who they are, whatever, whatever. And I'm literally standing there. So now they got to call the uniform cops. And so as I'm standing there, this little cop, probably about 5 foot, maybe had little man's disease, I don't know. This cop, I just noticed he's mean mugging me the entire time. I don't have nothing to do with the altercation. I go over there when I see the officer surrounding my sister. But by this time, they sorting things out. They call uniform cops. But I noticed this officer walking back and forth, mean mugging me. Okay, for those of you who know what mean mugging is, you already know what's going on. When the uniform cops get there, he says, they ask who needs to go. Now, mind you, Karen don't have to go nowhere. Karen back at watching the game. So when he gets there, when the officers get there, mind you, it's a black cop. Ice Cube said black cops showing out for the white cops. When the cops get there, they say, the little short cop says, she has to go, he has to go. Now, mind you, I'm not a part of the altercation. Why do I got to go? So I'm like, yo, y'all gonna give me my money back? Like, what's really going on? He got to go. I said, why do I have to go? Because none of this has to do anything with me. The cop grabs me by the collar, pulls out his billy stick, and tells me to shut the fuck up. And if I say anything, he gonna beat me down in the street. Mind you, my kids are watching. My kids are watching. Now, here's the thing. I had nothing to do with it. Had nothing to do with it. So next thing you know, Val's going off. They done threw Val on the floor, on the ground, because she's screaming because they threatening to beat me up. They're dragging me off to the car and so forth. Now, here's the problem. When I said that they demonized black men, I'm standing there, but I'm the biggest threat. I'm standing there minding my business, waiting for the situation to get resolved, but I'm the biggest threat. Why is that? Now, let's fast forward. So now I'm in the holding cell, right? So now I'm in the holding cell, and I look up, and I see this officer trying to talk to me through the glass, but I can't hear him. And so I'm looking, and I'm like, huh? And I look up, and then I realized who it is. I said, hold the hell? The cop that was mean mugging me went and put on his uniform, came to the holding cell to taunt me. Tell me where they do that at. Understand this. Now, granted, was I beaten that day? But I was targeted, and that could have very well went south because somebody looked at me as a black man in a situation I had nothing to do with and determined I was the biggest threat. That's just one incident. I could tell you countless times we were pulled over and made to sit out on the curb and all this other stuff on the west side of San Bernardino. But here's the thing, and this is what white privilege does. Karen can file a complaint without facts, without proof. The police can show up. They're going to take Karen's side. But if I defend myself, if I defend my right, if I defend my dignity, I get shot in the back. I get taken to jail. So now, here we sit. So Johnny, what does that got to do with anything? Okay, I'm about to explain it to you. I'm about to explain it to you. Those are just a couple of examples. I could tell you this one other story I'm gonna tell you real quick. In the early to mid 90s, I got pulled over by the police so much. I was on my way to school to Northridge. True story. I probably should be glad it happened then and not now. True story. I got pulled over by the police so much I snapped. Here I am. I'm on my way to Northridge driving up to 57. Right? I see the cop. The cop is in front of me. I'm merging onto the freeway. I notice the cop starts to slow down. Okay, here we go. So what I start to do is I start to slowly get off of the freeway. I notice when I move, he move. When he move, I move. Okay. Then I get off the freeway because I'm like, I'm not getting pulled over by this dude. He gets off the freeway. I pull over to the side of the curb before he would turn his light on because I'm like, I'm about to pull over and I'm going to get out the car. He pulls over. I snap. I get out the car and walk up to him and say, why the hell are you following me? What do you want? Because I had gotten pulled over so many times at that point. What do you want? He put his hand on his gun and I said, look, my tags are straight. I wasn't speeding. X, Y, and Z. Why the hell are you pulling me over? And he said, you know what, you're right, blah, blah, blah. So in one sense, me snapping on him probably got me out of some BS, but then for two, it could have got me shot. Here's the thing. I didn't do anything. He let me go because I hadn't did anything. My skin was my sin. And most people don't want to believe that. Now let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. We can go all the way back to Emmett Till. We seem to forget about Jasper, Texas, where they drugged a man to death. Now we got Jacob Blake, we got Breonna Taylor, we got George Floyd, we got Ahmaud Arbery. We could keep going on and on and on and on. But for some reason, there's something about America's psyche that they don't see anything wrong with this at all. And they will find a reason to justify it. So they shoot this cop shoots this man in the back 7 times. Unarmed, I might add. Unarmed. So now they're going to figure out a way to justify it and say whatever it is they need to say to justify this attempted murder. And guess what? Nothing's going to happen. It's all going to sound good, but nothing's going to happen. Now, here's what good white folks don't understand. If you benefit from white privilege and you benefit from the system of racism and you don't speak up, you're a part of it. Not only you're a part of it, you condone it and you're just as guilty. We see, the funny thing is, when we talk about business and sponsorship and all of these things, and then somebody mess up and they say, take away their sponsorship, take away this, take away that, this whole cancel culture. Why ain't nobody canceling Trump? But when we talk about systems, when we talk about institutions that subscribe to racism, a racist system, a bias system, a prejudice system, and you still support it because you feel like that's not me, then you're part of the problem. Now let's get into this. Now, follow me on this. Let me explain the psyche of racism. Because some of you think you're not racist, and I'm going to explain it to you. Because I've had to explain this to my family. Racism happens I'll say racism is on a spectrum. Racism is on a spectrum. Most cats I play football with, because they play football next to me, and called me bro probably don't believe they're racist. Okay. Most good white people probably don't believe that they're racist. And I'm not saying all white people are racist. That's not what I'm saying. But hear what I am saying. Tap into a part of yourself that's what they call the primitive mind or your automatic, and figure out, is there something about me? Is there something about my psyche? Is it something about my being that allows me to be prejudiced even when it's convenient? Here's what I mean by this. Racism is on the spectrum. So you got your white supremacists, you got your Hitlers, you got all those people. Okay. Then you have your systematic institutions, America, which was founded on racism, bigotry, the whole nine. So all of that stuff. Then you have your teachers, you have your police officers, you have your judges, you have your lawyers, you have your everyday person who we have to deal with and think about it. There's a sensor that goes on in the side of us and say, uh-oh, something's not right here. I've did everything you asked me to do, but something's not right here. So what I'm asking well-intended white people to do is tap into that primitive part of your mind that gives you the automatic that says something's not right. Here's the thing. I had this conversation today. If I belong to a country club that's excluded black people, but I'm nice to black people, I'm this, I'm that, guess what? You're still racist. Because you now are supporting a system that excludes people based on race and color. Here's another thing. Watch this. Here's what most people don't even think about. And this is what I mean by racism is in levels. There's your blatant racism. We got that. I'm talking to well-intended, good white people. And this is what I look at. Me and you can sit down, we could talk, we can be mutually respected, and so forth. Here's a perfect example of some innate primitive racism. When we talk about what happened in Central Park, when that black man told that white woman to put her dog on the leash, and she tapped into a part of herself that she knew that she was supposed to be inferior. So therefore, I get to call the police, and I will say this, and guess what? They'll show up with guns blazing to protect the white woman. That's one thing. Here's another thing. Talking about the psyche right now. One of the things that I see all the time is, and I pay attention. Now follow me on this. I've had people call me friend, but would not want their relative to date a black person. It's a different level of racism. I will go party with you. I will call you friend while we're at work, but you can't come to my house. Matter of fact, I could be your friend, but you can't be a part of my wedding. Because there's certain codes. As long as you can be polite, you can be cordial, but there's certain things and there's certain codes that people don't tell you about, which I can't cross because you're black, I'm white. I can't cross because you're black, I'm Hispanic. It's real simple. What happens is, and I want you to hear this, There's certain parts about us that I can be taught, I can mask how I feel until certain things happen, then my automatic primitive brain takes place. And you'll get to see my true colors. So sometimes when we think that, oh, that person's not racist, okay, and maybe they're not. When you look at the definition of racism, maybe they're not. But here's what happens. In the time of trouble, in the time of decision, something happens and something tips the scale. That's that primitive brain that they'll say, this decision is better, or I'm going to do this, and not realizing it's the skin, it's where this person is from that tips the scale. But they don't think they're racist because they gave you the interview. They don't think you're racist because they sat down and talked to you. But when it comes to crunch time, when it comes into times of turmoil, when it comes in times of decision making, there is something innately that happens that they can't help themselves. We're seeing it all over America right now. President Trump has tapped in to the psyche of racist America, and they cannot help themselves. Even to the point where they see evil and they will justify it. They will see evil and justify it. Now, let's get back to the psyche of racism. I was in court one time for a traffic ticket. This is what I mean by the psyche of racism. True story. Telling you no lies. You know, in my college days, I ain't had no money, so I got tickets, and hey, I had to go to court. So all us black and brown folks are sitting there waiting to see the judge, and boom, you're getting handed out fines left and right, left and right. So I'm sitting there watching, and I see this older white guy in a suit, kind of tattered, whatever, older white guy in a suit. He's next on the docket. He goes up before the judge, they call him. Before he could even respond or even present his case, the judge said, case dismissed, you can go. Dude turned and said, what? Huh? She said, don't worry about it. Case dismissed, you can go. He walked out. Now, you know how when they read those dockets, they tell you everything that somebody else is, what you're in there for. Some of the same stuff the rest of us was in there for. Older white dude, blonde hair, couldn't even get the words out before the judge interrupted him and told him, case dismissed, you can go home. He was even surprised. You think that judge recognized that? And do you think she cared that the whole courtroom turned to each other like, what? Did y'all just see that? That's what I'm talking about when we go to a place that is innately in us and we don't even know that it's happening. So here's a point I want to make. Just how black men have been demonized throughout centuries in this country. So therefore, we have to see the dangers. Police brutality, when we go to the boardrooms, when we go to the store. Here's the thing. Everywhere we go, there's a threat. So just like that's ingrained in us, and I don't even people even are aware of it. Just like that's ingrained in us, here's what's also ingrained in our counterparts. Is that we're better. Even if we have to cheat and benefit from the system of racism, it's okay. If they get hurt or harmed, most likely they deserved it. This is, we belong here, you don't. my pain is greater than yours. And even when he's carrying a gun, he's carrying a knife, he's less threatening than that black man standing over there angry. That's what's been woven and been ingrained into the psyche of America. So sometimes even well-intentioned people, non-black people, are not even recognizing, don't even know what they're doing. To me, here's the thing. I don't care if a dude came up to me with a swastika on his forehead and a Confederate flag on his neck. I know where you're coming from. I get it. You respect me, I respect you. It's the person, like the people you see on Fox News and all of those things, people who really think that they're right and really think that they're good and really think that they're not racist. Those are the people that's the problem. And I really want to challenge people, especially the Trump supporters, is tell me why. Because he hasn't said an intelligent thing since he's been in there. Because he has tapped into a part that you probably didn't even know it existed. Because when something is ingrained in you and something's a part of you, even though you do good things and you say good things, when something happens and it becomes automatic, you're not even aware of it. Check this out. So I talked about the whole Kenosha thing. Follow me on this. The police chief in Kenosha or whatever, here's this kid, and guess what? I bet y'all didn't know that this kid organized with the police, and the police out there organized with the militia. And so after he killed those people, he walked right past the police and left, and they let him go. They were a part of it. But here's the police chief. And I'm not going to read the whole thing. He never condemned the kid who killed those people. He condemned the protesters and basically said, y'all shouldn't have been out here or it wouldn't have happened. What do you mean it wouldn't have happened? If that kid wouldn't have drove across state lines with a loaded weapon, it wouldn't have happened. But even when this kid murders somebody, there's something in him that won't allow him to condemn it. Because guess what? Then he has to condemn his own actions. The thing is, here's the problem. Here's the problem. We are black men, black boys. We are at war, but we're at war. And here's the thing: we're not even at war. We're under attack. We're under attack. And I don't care if you like tonight's show or not. I really don't. We're under attack. The only thing that probably keeps me safe is that I'm 47, about to be 48. Because if I was 22, I'd really be a threat. Now, how do I relate this to trauma? Here's the thing. To be black in America, to be a black man in America, every day is a fight. Every day is a battle. Because here's the thing, and I used to hate this. Let me explain it to you. When I worked at a company, I'm not going to say their name because I don't want to give them credit. I'm working my ass off to rise to the top. But what they used to say was, he's black, but he's safe. He's black, but he's safe. He's one of the good ones. The fuck does that mean? One of the good ones. I'm on my job. I'm trying to do what's right. And so, do I believe I had white friends at the company? Sure. Absolutely. Some of them are still friends to this day. I'm not going to deny that. But the problem is, I had to overperform. I had to compromise my passion to make them feel safe to accept me. While I sit and watch other people do other reckless things and they don't get the same consequences at all. Good white folks, do you ever go into a building, whether it's to work, whether it's to the grocery store, whether it's to the park, and have to worry that you will be accepted because of the color of your skin? Do you have to go into a group of people and scan the danger? Not looking for guns. We know how to handle guns. We can run. Any sign of danger, we can run. I'm talking from a different standpoint. When you go to school and you sit there and watch your teacher treat you differently than the other students, and you know you didn't do nothing wrong. And then they want to label you because you get upset. They want to call you dummy. They want to put you on medication. They want to say that you got a learning disability. I'm the smartest dude I know, and they wanted to put me in the dumb school. The thing is, you guys don't live in our skin. You don't walk in our shoes, so you don't know what we experience. So to tell us that racism don't exist, take a step out of self for a minute. Take a step out of your privilege and pay attention. Understand that, here's the thing. I don't need to rewrite the narrative of who black men are. We're geniuses, we're kings, we're fathers, we're brothers, we're all of those things, we're the same things that you are. But we got to work 10 times harder just to get what's owed to us. But here's the thing, people like Donald Trump will cheat and smile as if he really accomplished it. That's racism. That's privilege. If you take everything that Donald Trump has done and put Barack Obama's face on it, he would have been impeached. But yet we make excuses. You don't live in our skin. You don't understand the things that we have to face. So when you talk about trauma, let me connect it to trauma. Here's the thing. When that man got shot in the back and I found out his kids is in the car, his kids was in the car, no regard for black life. So now I got to worry about if I got my grandson in the car and I get pulled over. And I'm supposed to just yes sir and master this and yes sir and master that to go home? When I got to prove myself, especially black women got to work 100 times as harder just to get the same recognition. But then when they outshow you, and when they show you their smarts and they show you their genius and they show you their work ethics, you want to call them bitches. I can't wait till Kamala Harris gets in Trump's ass. Can't wait. He ain't smart enough to handle her. I'm tired. I'm angry. Here's the thing. what you see in the media, for one, is not true. It's not accurate. It's not an accurate depiction of who we are as black men. But you have allowed yourself to watch so much stuff in the media that we become demonized that even when we're murdered on TV, even when we're murdered on TV, you justify it. He must have did something wrong. The fact of the matter is my skin is my sin. If I wave a slingshot, I'll get shot. I got so much more I got to say, but I try to stay within an hour, and I know I didn't get to all my points. Here we go. So check this out. This is what I'm suggesting. This is what I'm suggesting. Don't care if you like the show. Don't care what you thought about it. Really don't care. But so be it. Black men, black women, black families. How do we get through this? Because every time I see a young black kid, a young black man get murdered in the streets or whatever, that's a reflection of me. That's me getting killed in the street. That could have been me 20 years ago. Here's what I'm suggesting. Now, I'm talking to the black people now. You know, we talk about Black Wall Street, we talk about different clubs, we talk about different gatherings and all this other stuff. Now is the time to reconnect and not only come together, but support one another. Now, I got a call or a text from a friend, and Michelle, and she asked, what could we do? How could we support black men in this time? Because a friend of hers was struggling what he's seeing on the news and all these other things. So I'm just going to tell you exactly what I told her. The first thing is we have to have avenues to talk about this. We have to have avenues to vent our frustrations and to try to make sense of things. Okay? Some of the stuff we can't make sense of. But it makes sense because we live in America. You know, people want to wave the American flag and all that good stuff. And I don't have a problem with the American flag. I got a problem with its heritage and its legacy. And so when people say, if you don't like it, leave, hell, we was brought here. Y'all leave. But most importantly, what you're saying is you're invalidating the African American experience. And when Trump says make America great again, when? To win. We're going back to the 50s, 60s, to the 1800s. So we going back to slavery? Where are we going back to again? Because we have not seen the best of America yet. But anyways, okay, I digress. Sorry. So this is what we need to do for each other. Allow the opportunity to vent frustrations, whether it's in groups, whether it's time that brother to brother that we have conversation. Validate each other's feelings. Listen, I feel the way I feel. I don't need anybody debating it. It's the way I feel. We need to have different outlets, hobbies, just different ways to relieve stress. Create laughter and getting involved, whether it's through voting, whether it's through donation, whether it's just going to help each other out. Somebody needs some help, go help them out. And creating just positive energy in a positive space. Now, here's what I would like to do. I would like to invite anyone to come on the show and we can have a real conversation. And what I mean by that is somebody who believes they're well intended, but they support Trump's agenda. Come on, let's talk about it. If you're just a devout Trump follower, come on, let's talk. If you believe what you're seeing in the streets of the murdering of black men and the lynching of black men is justified, come on, let's talk. We can have a conversation. But also what I would like to do is invite other men to come on the show and we could have candid conversations about the experience, both physically, mentally, emotionally, the experience about black men in this country. You could hit me up in the DMs. I guess that's what they call messaging. You could call me, whatever. Now, I know I broke format, but I'm tired. Here's my prediction. For all of you Trump followers, for all you people who condone systematic racism, for those who believe or support murderous cops, the day of reckoning is coming. And I ain't talking no violent stuff. Here's what I know. The moment, whether it's this November or it's 4 years from now, everything that you guys have said and everything that you guys have supported, once that man's out of office, you can't take it back. You have nowhere to go. You have nowhere to hide. So therefore, your day of reckoning is coming. This new generation is different than my generation. This new generation is different than the generation before. Here's the part that y'all don't understand. In the social media age, they got documentation. They got receipts. So right now it's okay because the guy at the top is spewing all of this stuff. But the day of reckoning is coming. You can't take it back. So I want to thank you all for allowing me to vent. I wouldn't do the platform justice, African American men wellness, mental wellness for African American men and boys, if I didn't address this. Sometimes we got to break tradition. Sometimes we got to break the format because there's bigger issues at hand. Now, I ain't said nothing that don't nobody else already know. If you found what I said offensive, come talk to me. We can chop it up. But the problem is if you haven't did a gut check, if you haven't said, okay, hold on. Am I racist? Am I prejudiced? Do I welcome the privileges of systematic racism? Do I welcome the privileges of white privilege? Okay. And it goes unchecked, then you're part of the problem. All right, now. This has been Indestructible Souls. I want to thank you for allowing me to vent. It wasn't pretty, but I don't care. You guys have a good night. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and I'm going to see you next time.